Oh, this is such delicious irony because it's starting to happen. It's starting to happen. Businesses who are always going to be ultimately affected by being outside the EU have started to speak out. Nigel Farage, yesterday I shared a clip from Nigel Farage's LEBC show about a dairy farmer who was saying, "Nigel, what am I going to do? I've lost access to my European workers. What am I going to do?" And then Nigel Farage, of all people, the quote champion of Brexit, turns around and accuses this guy of exploiting migrants. He then, and I really want more people to do this. If you're a business owner, your business is affected by the EU, call into his radio show. Start putting this guy on blast. This guy has an hour slot on LBC every single day. There should be an organised call from like one of these unions, whether it be fishing, whatever, and they just bombard. Doesn't matter about the topic, just bombard his phone lines for an hour, asking him these questions, and have a Facebook group with people interacting, saying, ask if you get on, you need to ask him this question, ask him this question. He said this, but it doesn't explain this, why, and this. Start doing that, because this, once again, we've said it from the very beginning. Brexit is nothing but this ideological project run by the right wing that can't work. It won't work. Whatever deal we get from the European Union will be worse than being an actual member. We will never get as good a deal as being an actual member of the European Union. That's the facts. This idea that we hold all these cards, the tough talking we see from the government, leads to two options. Either A, they know the damage it's going to do. Ultimately, yeah, they do know the damage, because we've already heard reports on Brexit and impact stuff are piling up, and the government is just sitting on them, refusing to release them. So we know that's going on. It's going to happen. The idea, the saying of "this isn't the Brexit I voted for," coined by Colin, will become "Brexit isn't working." I guarantee you by the end of the year, "this isn't the Brexit I voted for" gets unanimously done. And it will have become parlance when someone like the Daily Mail, the Star, say, "this isn't the Brexit the UK voted for." That's when it starts to get interesting, because that is when the argument to rejoin the European Union becomes far stronger. And we're going to go through this now, because I have no sympathy for this guy, because he was told what would happen. He knew the consequences, and we told them the Leave campaign is running trying to hit as many people as possible. The Leave campaign said we would remain in the single market and European and customs union. That was a Leave campaign promise. Where has that option been? Why isn't Boris Johnson pursuing an option he himself championed for? And you wonder why they don't want to have another referendum, or didn't even want to have another referendum, because they knew what would happen. They knew that people probably wouldn't vote for Brexit. Why aren't we being offered a vote on Boris Johnson's deal versus remaining in the single market and customs union? That will be very valid. That will be a very valid referendum. But here we have this, and I have no sympathy for this guy whatsoever. Leave voter realises his fruit farm empire would faces ruin without EU migrants. A Leave voting business owner has said that he regrets his decision because his fruit farms will collapse because he has no access to EU workers after Brexit. Harry Hall, of Hall Hunter Partnership Soft Fruit Company, said he was in favour of Brexit because of the issue of sovereignty. When we've gone over that, it's complete bunk. The idea of the sovereignty argument that Brexiteers parry is complete bunk. It's just a slogan that they shout. They have no arguments for it. They can't even justify it now. It's an empty slogan that had no bite. It was just a slogan. And slogans cannot stand up to the reality of what is happening to this country. Especially when you have the US making demands of our sovereignty. How do Brexiteers explain their willingness to give up sovereignty to the US but not to the EU? An organisation where we have more saying than the demands being made by the US for that trade agreement. Because of the issue of sovereignty, and was concerned by the government's approach to negotiations. Mr. Hall has told the BBC Radio 4's Today programme, as an industry body, the British Summer Fruits, or BSF, claimed that the prices for strawberries and raspberries would soar between 35 and 50% if Brexit restricted access to EU labour. What's this? Rising food prices? Oh, isn't that Project Fear? Looks like it's Project Reality now. And we told you so. And many people said, oh, it won't happen, it's just Project Fear. Here it is, right, playing centre in front of your face. So he said, I regret my vote in the face of the government I'm given. The reason I voted to leave was I'm in favour of sovereignty. This is about sovereignty for me. As a businessman, we need clarity about our future direction. If I don't have my 2,500 staff that I need, or I have no certainty of that from 2019 onwards, I don't have a business. It's as simple as that. A worker at Hunter Harry Hall's partnership and Tursley Farm in Godalming, Surrey, told today it had one English applicant in the last several years, but they quit after one day. The company, yeah, so all those retired people, you know, you suddenly get this new bright future of back-breaking work to become a fruit picker. Oh. Yeah, the choices Brexit has given you, Brexiteers. Rush and apply for those fruit picking jobs. The company farms more than 100,000 acres, including 34 acres of greenhouses. In its Brexit white paper earlier this year, the government admitted that the UK Parliament has remained sovereign throughout our membership of the EU. Prominent Leave campaigners had argued for Brexit on the basis of the UK had lost its sovereignty to the EU over the years. The BSF said that soft fruit production in the UK had grown by 131% over the last 20 years to a value of more than 1.2 billion, largely as a result of an increase in homegrown strawberries. It said that Brexit was already exacerbating the shortage of seasonal labour and has warned MPs that losing access to European workers will have a disastrous and cataclysmic impact on the industry. Nope. Oh, come on. Stop doing that. So, around 95% of the 29,000 seasonal workers each year come from the EU, primarily from Poland, Bulgaria and Romania. And oh, Jesus Christ, stop doing that. And demand is expected to rise to around 31,000 by 2020 if the industry continues to grow, the organisation said. It has called for seasonal agricultural permit scheme, which would allow labourers from Europe to enter the UK on fixed-term contracts to fill the jobs UK citizens shun. Which, even though that's in, these guys aren't going to come. Why? Because the access given by the European Union gave them was far better. They had protected rights. This isn't going to become as an attractive place for them to come, even if there are jobs available for them. British Summer Fruit's chairman, Lawrence Owens, said, "It's inconceivable that people who voted to leave the European Union want to destroy an iconic and incredibly competitive British horticultural industry and see the end of buying British produce. But if we cannot ensure access to the seasonal workers needed to produce soft fruit in Britain, there will be an unintended consequence of Brexit, along with soaring prices and increased reliance on imports." That's what Brexit was always going to do. This is not an unintended consequence. That is a consequence of Brexit. So yeah, I have absolutely no sympathy for this guy. He was told what would happen. What the Leave campaign was saying was bunk. Government's own white paper said that it had never lost any sovereignty during its time in the EU. Once again, when Brexit meets reality, reality always wins. And this reality that we're somehow going to be better outside the EU, it comes for businesses first, it will get to the population next, and then people will start to question, this isn't the Brexit I voted for, which then becomes Brexit isn't working.